I think there again, I hate to sort of toot our own horn in here of people who are in litigation support, but I think this is another essential role for litigation support. I think that, when I talk to our attorneys, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I've said this to several people here as we've been talking this morning, a lot of this comes down to managing personalities. There are some people who are not going to want to have a meaningful, and maybe it's going to change at some point. I think this thing keeps going in and out, so I apologize, but I think I've got a big enough mouth that you guys can all hear me. There are some people that I think it's going to be difficult to ever have them have a meet and confer conference that talks about all the things that the federal rules of civil procedure anticipated you talking about in a meet and confer conference. And I think that's because there are some people who always feel like they're going to be tipping their hat, or they're going to be, doing something that they don't want to do, or they come out of that mentality where it's just like, you just don't share this kind of information. We don't let somebody know something. But I think part of the role for us, though, is that when, and people have said this in some of the other sessions this morning, but when we can get involved early, I think as lit support people, I think we can help people understand, help our attorneys to understand, what kind of information we should communicate, and help them reframe this from turning this into the way some attorneys, and Kathy, hopefully you can comment on this, see this as a liability into seeing it as a strength and seeing it as something where, sometimes going on the offensive is a good thing for you. Sometimes getting out in front of this and, dictating how things are going to be done if you're working with an opposing counsel who's not doing that, or who maybe isn't interested in having any kind of conference either, any kind of meaningful conference. Us helping our attorneys to understand what can be the value of doing that, I think, is a really good role for us. So in terms of sharing that information, I think we have something to contribute there. I know that a lot of what I do at my firm is trying to educate people on, we all hear the horror stories, we all see the spoliation claims, we all hear about the sanctions, but what can benefit us when we do this right? And that's really, to me, what the key of all this is. So, Kathy, I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but I think that's what we try to do with our folks.
I think the two gentlemen probably looked at the notes that I made before I came down here. That was actually one of the 3 points that I was going to make, is that probably the most pivotal communication is not one that happens between me and a vendor or me and my litigation support. It happens between me and my partner. Partners don't do document reviews, so it's me that's dealing with Brent, it's me that's dealing with the profiles, and the other companies in the world that help with e-discovery. But I have to be educated so that I can educate my partner, so I can convince my partner that he wants to engage in e-discovery and get it in from the ground floor. I think everyone knows that the best thing you can do is, as soon as you have a big case to come in the door, is involve all of the experts immediately. If you come in halfway through, it's too late. It's too little too late. We need to get it from the ground floor, but I'm dealing with a partner who dictates everything, who baits labels by hand, and who believes that every piece of paper in the world needs to be color-coded, cataloged, and put into a 3-ring binder. There are 24 3-ring binders on the floor of my office right now. I counted before I came down here. So what I need, because I'm not smart enough to know, I need to be educated on why this is so helpful, and not from the spoliation, not from the legal aspect, but from why should we do this? And I had a huge case with Brent not too long ago that involved one very angry governmental agency, a federal search warrant, and a federal subpoena on about 3 million pieces of paper later. And I'm sitting there going, what do I do with this paper? And I called Brent and was like, okay, what's the end result? Where do you want to get to? Are you going to have to produce this? Are you going to have to catalog it? Are you going to have to search it? What do we need to do? And then he gave me the pros and cons of all of the different options I have. We can put it in summation. We can host it on a site. We can do all of these things. And then we sat down, and I think the best thing that anyone has ever done in terms of e-discovery, we quantified it. Like, okay, if you have 1 million pieces of paper, that's going to take you personally 2 months looking at each one by hand. If we load it up, if we do it electronically, it'll take you a month. Well, I can then go to my partner and say, okay, if you spend a little bit of extra time and money now, I can save the client $30,000 just in time. Just in that extra month of me not sitting in a warehouse somewhere in Arkansas looking over pieces of paper. I mean, not that I don't love Arkansas, but maybe that's not the best use of my time. So if I am educated, if the other associates are educated, about all of the cool and groovy things that lit support can do, then we can be your captains. We can go to the partners and say, okay, we can do this your way with the 3-ring binders and the little tape flags and the Sharpie markers. Or we can save the client $100,000 and do it another way that's better and more cost-effective and efficient down the road. And if we do it the more cost-effective and efficient way down the road, then in dealing with opposing counsel, we have a leg up. We know what we're doing, we know how we're doing it, and we can go to a court and say, hey, we're doing everything we're supposed to do, and we're doing it efficiently and well. And I think it just puts us in a better litigation posture, to be sure.
One of the things that we found in communicating within your own team is communicating consistently the same format and the same information to the attorneys working on the case. When you let them know a consistent layout, this is the status of your custodians, this is the status of the document review, this is how much we've collected, and this is where the prices stand. These are the constraints of date ranges, names, and search terms we're working with. That can be summarized in a 2 to 3 page document. And having that document available to the attorneys at their fingertips literally gives them the ability not only to know where the project stands when they talk to their client, more importantly, it gives them a chance to have it at their fingertips when they talk to opposing counsel. And let's talk about how that helps the case. When attorneys can communicate accurate, timely information to opposing counsel, it shuts down problems and it avoids lengthy motion practice. One of the greatest ways to help the attorneys avoid the cost of e-discovery is letting them give answers that are accurate immediately, so it doesn't become documented, it doesn't become a paper trail of letters back and forth, misunderstandings that turn into motion practice, into accusations. And we get into these side ring services that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars because somebody was miscommunicated with them. So you having consistent forms of how you communicate with attorneys can actually solve a whole host of problems. And it sounds easy, because it is easy, but it's so seldom done.
Now, did anybody else just hear Dan summarize the very first 2 sessions? I think that...
I was in the other room.
I believe that you're starting to hear the same themes, and it has to do with communicating timely, and communicating accurately. Let's see here. Catherine, I think I'll go with my little checklist here. What do attorneys find particularly challenging about communicating specifically with vendors?
Okay. Other than the points we've already mentioned, using the language I don't speak, and making sure we have the right tools, it's being imprecise or not giving answers to questions. That's the most frustrating thing that I deal with, because I'm not really savvy when it comes to anything technology-wise. I can turn my TV on and off, and I'm really excited that I can do that. I don't even sometimes know what questions to ask, but when I ask questions and I don't get good answers, it's frustrating. When you're talking to a vendor and you say, well, how much is it going to cost? Well, it depends. Oh, okay. Well, how long is it going to take? Who really knows? A while. Or if you ask, how long is it going to take, and you get that cryptic answer back, well, it's a terabyte of information. A terabyte? Is that related to a pterodactyl? Is that good? Is that bad? Does that take a really long time? I mean, I know now that terabyte means, okay, it's going to take a while. You're not getting this tomorrow. But to give the best answer that can be given, and even if it's an uncertain answer of, it could be 2 months. I think that when I get into the company, there's going to be this many email custodians, and their email accounts are going to be this big, and if that's the case, then it's going to take me 2 months. But if it happens to be bigger, it might take me an additional month. I can deal with that kind of uncertainty, because then I can go back to opposing counsel or to the court and say, well, I think it's going to be 2 months, based on all the information I have. If things go awry, then it might be longer. And then, of course, if anything does go awry, to update that immediately. To get that phone call that says, hey, listen, once we got to the client, we realized that this particular client has, I don't know, for instance, never enforced an email box size limit and has never deleted anything since 1996. It's going to take us 2 months longer than we thought. But if I have that information up front, then I can go forth and I can give that to the appropriate parties. So I think just the most frustrating thing is not getting answers, or not getting answers that mean anything to me. Probably mean things to everyone else sitting on this panel, but I was told there'd be no math on this test, so I don't understand this